Nice to meet you.
Oh, you guys didn't work. All right.
Well, thank you. Jacqueline, nice to meet you.
And we have audio. That's great.
All right, that's wonderful.
All right. Oh, and there, I'm hoping that's Nadia. Lawrence Council speaking.
Please be them.
Hey, Nadia. How you doing? Are you in the building or close to the building?
So, is this like your Virgin Voyage thing too, or do you do this all the time? Come on with it.
Oh, we just did a different panel thing last week. I don't remember what it was
Really?
recently. So this is
All right.
the second time around,
All right.
but I think it's a little different than last time. And
Really?
We're gonna be ad-libbing, I'm sure, so we'll see what's up.
Yeah. Well, what did you find desirable from the first time?
Well, you were there too. There was some.
Shaking his head like, I'm still trying to find the shit I like.
I mean, well, this is going to be a little different because he's actually prepared.
Yeah.
The moderator for the last one wasn't really ready to go ahead.
Well,
Really?
and I'm just gonna assume that Lawrence like gets it in a way that the last guy didn't.
So who did the first one?
The interim director of the Center for Social Justice Institute at Case Western.
The interim director.
Yeah, Dr. Do you know Dr. Rhonda Williams?
Yeah, I met her.
Yeah, she's going on like a sabbatical. So the guy who's filling in while she's on her break.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. A guy?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it like a guy is not apt to do it.
No, a guy is not apt to do it.
No. Because, see, I was there at the Race, Food, and Justice Conference.
Yes.
And I had an opportunity to understand why Kim had been on me so to come, you know. And so if he doesn't, and your piece is on,
Really militarization in the police. Like.
and the fact of how they're treating us. And you mean to tell me this guy didn't get it?
Well, he's a white guy. He's a sociology.
You know, that's
professor.
scary though. That's scary because I sat in a week-long training with the OOC and
What's that?
Ohio Organizing Collaborative. And basically, you've got every race, creed, color, sexual inclination, and all of that. And, you know, when you said he's a white guy, he may not get it.
No. I mean, he should.
He should,
doesn't.
but he doesn't. And that's
Not
sad.
making excuses.
You know, that's sad. And,
It is.
you know, 'cause
Nadia's
I-
here with her mother.
Hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
Let's see how that's.
Oh,
That's actually,
What's up, y'all?
that's actually
Alright.
perfect. I wasn't sure.
You get confused for a
How
sister
we
when
gonna
you
feel?
show up, don't you, baby? Yeah. I'm mad at you, the mom.
All right.
Yes.
I think Katie's in there doing a pre-interview for the conversation on Sound of Ideas tomorrow. But can I get you guys water or coffee? We have honestly a decent coffee maker that makes espresso.
Is that
mochas.
big thing?
With the touch screen? Yeah, we got that about a month ago. It's pretty sweet when it's not broken down, but it's saving me money. I'm just mainlining like, totally like double, quadruple shots of espresso, a little bit of water. It's great.
See, I would love that to go,
Oh yeah.
but if I drink it now, I'll be like this.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Oh, God, yes, and unfortunately, what about you?
I'll take any free beverage.
I guess I know this, Rafiq, but what I'm asking is, which of the free beverages that I have to offer you would you like?
I would like one of each.
Yeah.
I'll take an espresso.
Okay, sweet. A single or double?
Double.
Double? Would either of you like anything? Double espresso? Okay. Water? Okay. Kate, would you like anything to drink? You already know the wonders of our fabulous coffee machine?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen how it works.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I would take water.
Water? Okay.
Can I have water, please?
Yes. All right. Yes.
Oh.
there we go. Luckily, all the gear on the table that just fell it's mine and not the I'll be right back.
I thought I recognized
He pulled it out and was like, I've been using this forever.
Hey, does it work?
it works very well.
Nah,
We
well,
recorded a whole record on that thing.
well, all right. Well, all right.
Speaking of records,
Mm.
when can we expect more next time to be?
September 1.
Oh, wait till the 10th. That's the best day of the whole month.
Uh-huh.
Wait, are you a Virgo?
Yes.
I'm born on the 9th.
See, that's
You
why I
want a
love
joint
you,
birthday
because
party?
my grandmother's birthday is on that day too. For real, for real.
You and I are gonna have a
I
good
knew,
time.
see, I knew it was something about you, girl. I knew it was something about you.
Likewise.
And wait a minute, you get your friends out of my friends.
That was crazy.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. She was like, oh my God, that's my BFF.
Mhm.
I also would be able to cheat off your sheets.
You want me to sit with you, by you with my sheets? Let me try.
Oh, I know that's right.
I would totally cheat off of Jacqueline.
She takes good notes.
This is how
Too
I
many notes. Too many notes.
If I didn't know, I just went to college with it. Just
Oh,
made it all
okay.
the way through.
You'd have a doctorate in something by now, for sure.
Probably 2 or 3 things.
You're the young lady who did East Cleveland, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, east side of Cleveland, yes, okay, and that's an important area, all into itself. Yeah, now where was your focus, because I didn't have an
Kansas.
opportunity. Okay,
You guys are not far from each other.
not at all, not at all, and it's so interesting because concerned citizens kind of sort of was the throne that you had to walk over if you wanted to be elected in that area.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, when one of the co-founders died, they kind of stopped and slowed down having their meetings and whatnot. But yeah, so Kinsman was my new East Cleveland. And so when people ask me about how I feel about the merger, I said, for what? To make it Mount Pleasant Heights? What the hell? No, thank you. No, no, because I know people who have lived in the Mount Pleasant area since the 60s. And they're fed up.
Mhm.
They're like, that, and for Kinsman, hell, when I moved over there, Kinsman had 3 seats.
Double espresso,
There wasn't none of them doing
espresso,
nothing.
and Gabe is on his way with your orders.
Thanks so much.
Let's see, what time is it? Whoa, these
We got a little bit of time. I can't, those are your public radio dollars. We're gonna get started in a little bit. I just wanted to talk with you guys about how this is gonna go. Because it's a sort of a new system, this OVEE system, and obviously I've talked with Kate about it. But OVEE is a system that was designed by a company called ITVS, who creates programming and other things for public media companies.
Mhm.
And so this is basically a system that's available only to public media companies to allow them to stream programming, whether pre-produced programming online, and also stream live programming. We're actually doing an event with the Cleveland Clinic and Vice President Joe Biden's Cancer Moonshot Summit tomorrow, where we're streaming a live conversation. Thank you, Gabe. Oh my goodness. Appreciate it. Water.
Thank you.
So that's how we're going to be showing the films, basically, and why it's an online screening. So we'll be screening the fixtures, the 4 films, via OVEE. But what OVEE also allows for is it sort of creates a chat room so that people who are watching it virtually can also have a conversation, ask questions. They can talk amongst themselves
While they're watching.
And what I'm really hoping is that we'll get lots of questions. And honestly, I won't have to ask you that many questions because we'll get great questions from them. This is always the hope for any kind of thing like that. I have questions to ask, but this is beside the point. So also, because of this format, we're not like, it's a panel discussion, but we're not sitting here in front of an audience behind some sort of stage table. We're not on it's not even like a radio show in a way. So while it's a panel discussion, I really feel like it should just be a conversation with us in this room. And that's the special part about OVEE that you wouldn't get if we were having this conversation someplace else in some other format. I really just want to talk. So what we'll do when we start in about 6 minutes or 5 minutes or so is I'll open up OVEE and I'll have us on the screen. And also I should say that we're all talking through this microphone right here. It doesn't mean you have to link into it. It's set so that they'll be able to hear everything in the room. It's no big deal. I'll introduce the films and we'll talk a little bit with Kate. And then we'll start watching the first film. And then I think I might even have a single preliminary question before each film. But after the first film, I kind of don't want to show all the films straight. I feel like after each film, we should have a few questions with which each of the fixtures involved in that film and then go to the next film and see what questions are there from the audience and take those and move on. And then afterwards, we'll talk about what next and talk about other things and hopefully take a bunch more questions. This is my hope anyway. So we'll see. As you can tell, all this is new.
Okay, and what's the time span?
Well, I scheduled it from 6:30 to 8:30. I really don't think we'll be here till 8:30. I don't even think we'll be here till 8. I just wanted to make sure enough time was blocked out.
All right.
So I kind of feel like after we watch the films, let's see where the conversation goes, see what the response is like, and then we'll call it. That's the other thing about it being new is that really this whole setup is really just me. No one else is. I mean, there are obviously watchers, and this is the sort of thing that we need to do, but there's no other larger structure around me that makes me. I don't have to get out by 10 o'clock. I don't have to do anything. It's just us in this room, which I kind of like. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but how you doing, Gabe?
Good. You need handle anything else?
I think I'm all right.
All right. I'll be next door for the next half hour or so.
Okay, I'm gonna close the door just so we don't get any side noise, but I'm not too worried about the door
Okay.
opening, so feel free, man.
Before I leave, I'll wave and make sure you may thumbs up in case you need anything.
Sweet, thank you. Thank
By the way, I'm Gabriel. I spoke with Ari this morning, Nadia this morning, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Cool.
Thank you. Look forward to it. All right.
Are you gonna be on as well, Fee, tomorrow morning? Oh, you are, all right.
Yeah, I'm sleeping here.
Honestly, I gotta be here at 7, so I'm sleeping here too. Dinner's gonna be cold by the time I get back anyway, so I might as well. Yeah,
All right.
Sweet.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
thanks,
Thanks,
Gabe.
Gabe.
So just give me a little bit here while I actually set
Hello.
things in motion.
I gotta call you back. But reality, I gotta call you back. I'm about to go live.
Tell them to register for this.
Yeah, I'm about to send y'all the link to the group chat. I'm about to send y'all the link to the group chat so you can watch me live talk about the film.
All right, entering the screening. A little early.
Bye.
It's good. Dark screen. No, that's fine.
She's so far.
All right. So as you can see here, here's the screen where we'll be watching the film. And once people log in, we'll see their comments over here.
Over on that side.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
And, unfortunately, you can't sort of fit the whole thing on the screen at once, but here we already have 10 people. 10 people waiting.
Ooh, cool.
Well, 9 because I'm over here.
Because you're
on the
over
side.
there on the left hand, okay.
Don't count
We
me.
won't count you.
We got 9 people here already, which is great.
That's cool.
So I'm not gonna. Oh, I guess we're only a minute away. Let me see. That volume's great. Unfortunately, these are the only speakers that we have, but we only need to hear the audio from the film itself.
Okay.
So let's see here.
So these are just like typed questions that we'll see?
Oh, you won't see any questions. Oh, you mean from the OVEE people?
Yeah.
Yes, they're typed questions.
Okay.
There's no audio input. They'll hear audio from us.
Okay.
Oh, that reminds me. When the webcam starts, which we'll see at the start, you honestly don't even need to look at it because we're live streaming through Google Live via Google Hangouts and into OVEE. So there's like a 5 to 10 second delay on what we'll be saying and doing and what'll pop up on the screen. The viewers obviously don't pick up the delay. They don't get any of the original parts. So
Right.
it's going to seem weird. This is why I have no headphones here because it's just going to make me angry.
Right, I got you.
But yeah, so there it is. Oh, we're almost there.
Like we're in the space age, guys.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm just learning more about this process than I ever would have wanted to know.
Welcome to my life,
Mhm.
Mr. Washington. Yeah, actually, literally my life over the past 3 months. I didn't know how to do this until, this is another thing.
So you're learning.
Everything I do is new in my life right
That's
now.
good.
Until
Which is
tomorrow when it will be
Totally
old.
fine. What'd you say?
Until tomorrow when it'll be old, it'll be the second time.
No, it'll be totally different.
Like this worked great yesterday.
Right.
I'm not gonna click this start button until exactly 6:30.
Okay.
Actually, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Probably have about 30 seconds.
You're running.
This is hot.
When he first explained this to me, I was like, I don't get it, Lawrence. I mean, it seems like a good idea. Yeah, let's do it.
How it goes.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm constantly learning.
Mhm.
And this kind of reminds me of something that Ohio Bill had featured long time ago, they started talking about telephones of the future.
Mhm.
And something like this, where you could actually see and talk and, like the face chat and all of that. 50 years ago, I don't know what the technology is called. I went to Jetson's house, and so
I should say we had,
It's
there were, people can RSVP to this, and we had about 50 people RSVP. That doesn't mean 50 people are going to show up, and honestly, it could be much more than that. But the fact that we have 10 already is a good sign.
That's good.
So let's get started, I guess. All right. All right. Oh. That I have to remember to do.
Okay, and it turns you to the other side.
Yeah. As you can see, there's a delay. I mean, they'll see me saying that there's a delay in just a second here. Yeah.
Yeah, nice delay too.
Hey, how you doing? I am Lawrence Daniel Caswell, Associate Producer for Civic Engagement, Web, and Social Media here at IdeaStream. And I'm here to present this screening and panel discussion around The Fixers, a series of films based on the Republican National Convention that's coming to town. As you likely know, it begins July 18th, which also happens to be the 50th anniversary of the day of the Huff Riots. Not that there's necessarily a connection, but not that there's not, as you will likely see from the films we're about to show. But The Fixers basically asks, what would Clevelanders who are invested in social justice and in their city, what would they show the RNC delegates if they had the chance? So we're going to show 4 of the films from The Fixers. We'll talk with the lead artist of The Fixers, Kate Zopko, and for The Fixers. As I said, my name is Lawrence Daniel Caswell, and this is an IdeaStream production. So let me read off some introductions of folks before we start. We'll have a few questions, and then we'll start on the first film. So Kate Zopko is the lead artist for The Fixers. She's a Cleveland installation artist, author, and facilitator who constructs social experiments to spark public dialogues and incubate new cultural practices. With support from Art Matters and Spaces, she's developing a social practice artwork, The Fixers, centered around the 2016 Republican National Convention. How you doing, Kate? Great. Let's see who we have here. Marvetta Rutherford is a longtime resident of Cleveland's East Side, a lifelong rider of public transit, and a social justice activist. Founder of Garden Hood Enterprises, LLC, Rutherford has cultivated a space in her community that promotes healthy eating and intergenerational teamwork. She is the mother of 3 and grandmother of 3, and she holds that family and community dear. Thanks for joining us, Marvetta.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Nadia Loftus is, you are, the original copy I had said you were 17, but you're 18 now, right?
I'll be 18 Saturday.
You'll be 18 Saturday. Happy birthday. All right. Yeah. Nadia is a recent graduate of St. Martin de Porres High School, a resident of Kinsman. In response to neighborhood violence, Nadia started a campaign called Value Our Lives in September of 2015. She has organized a series of marches and events to make people aware of how much the violence in the city affects each of us. Thanks for joining us, Nadia.
Thank you.
As you can see on the camera, Nadia is also joined by her mother. I'm sorry, I apologize. I forgot your name again.
Natalie Avery.
Natalie. Thank you for coming, Natalie. R.A. Washington is a writer and musician and a number of other things, living on Cleveland's West Side. He co-founded Guide to Culture, a Cleveland bookshop doubling as a co-op workshop and event space in 2013. Guide to Culture incubates emerging and marginalized voices within the print mediums and projects including Cleveland Books to Prisoners, GTK Press, and the Cleveland Zine Archive. Mr. Washington, which is funny to say, Mr. Washington is a 2014 recipient of the Community Partnership for Arts and Culture Creative Workforce Fellowship. I'm going to ask you right now, because it's difficult for me because I've known you obviously for a long time. Can I call you Rafiq, or would you prefer me to call you RA? Which I probably should have asked for the microphone, but it's too late now, right? Either way it's fine. That's good. All right. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And finally, Jacqueline Green is a Northeast Ohio native, a civil rights and criminal defense attorney at the firm of Friedman and Gilbert, and co-coordinator for the Ohio chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. Jacqueline's legal practices focuses primarily on police and government misconduct, wrongful convictions, and general criminal defense. Through the Ohio NLG, that's the National Lawyers Guild, Jacqueline recruits and organizes pro bono criminal defense attorneys for protest-related criminal cases in the greater Cleveland area. She also trains and organizes NLG legal observers who observe law enforcement conduct at demonstrations in Northeast Ohio. How you doing, Jacqueline?
Great, thanks for having me.
You're going to be really busy in the next few weeks, aren't you?
I think so.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. So we're going to go through 4 of these films, and I'll just give you a little look ahead at the films we're going to do. The first film features one of the fixtures who's not here, but we'll still talk about the film a good amount. It features Tanise Horton and a day in the life of one of Cleveland's 25 wraparound school site coordinators, of which Tanise Horton is one. The second film features Marvetta, a lifelong public transit rider, talks to fellow riders in the Fairfax Kinsman neighborhood about their experience using local transit and the impact of both investment and disinvestment on what services are available to them. The third film we'll watch, examining the implications of Cleveland's hosting a political convention while its police department is under federal oversight for a pattern of police violence. And that film features both Rafiq and Jacqueline. And then the film that features Nadia, a 17-year-old organizer, interviews friends and family about what growing up in Kinsman, one of several Cleveland neighborhoods that's experienced a spike in gang-related murders, has meant to their lives. So we'll get to all of those films and we will take your questions. I'm guessing most of you have not used the OVEE platform before. You can type questions at any time. They'll pop up on the right of our screen. You can probably see the area to the right of your screen to ask questions. We might not, if you ask a question, we might not get to that question right away. You can even ask questions during the film and we'll get to those questions either directly after the film or we might hold those questions till a little bit later. So to start, I had just a few questions for you, Kate Sopko. What is a fixer? What is a fixer and how does it apply to the people that you featured in these films?
Sure. So a fixer is, in journalism, someone who would be hired by a foreign correspondent if they're going into another country for a story. They're somebody who expedites getting a story. So they're typically super well networked. And there's somebody that if you're like, I want to learn about like water treatment plants in Tehran, they would take you to all the places you need to go to find out about it very quickly, introduce you to people, translate for you, drive you around. And so what this project was doing was speaking to people who culturally operate as fixers in the city of Cleveland, particularly around work, around social equity, people who are really well networked and doing the work and asking them what tour of the city they would give RNC delegates and visitors if they had the chance.
So you describe in your bio, you describe the fixtures as a social practice artwork. What do you mean by that?
Social practice artwork is any public artwork that is about creating relationships between people or setting up a set of social interactions for the purpose of often community building, but you know, they play a lot of different roles, but I think that's where this piece has been going to.
So have you done, I know that you have sort of worked in that realm as an artist, but have you done anything that's been like the fixtures before? I mean, I guess I'm asking, like in dealing with specific people in the community and tying them together and telling their stories on one hand, and also like in terms of a series of films.
I've never worked in film before, but I have done work along the lines of the fixers, which is facilitating large groups of people to get something done together. So that's, yeah, it's definitely a scaled up version of things I've done before.
So why film this time?
Film seemed to be the right medium to communicate with a lot of people. And this seems to be the moment to be communicating with a lot of people because they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming. Yeah, that's true. It's true. So as you were developing the idea for the fixtures, where did you start? I mean, did you start more with the topics or did you start with the people? And actually, I want to pause, and I'm famous for the two-part question. So I'm asking that for the fixtures, but I'm also asking that for your artwork in general. I mean, as you're trying to work on this social practice artwork, is it the topic or is it the people that you start with?
I mean, I think this work specifically is about the process of us all getting to know each other. So I think that, you know, like the fixers has been in development for over a year and it has largely been a process of just like talking to like everyone I can think of, like policy analysts, journalists, activists, like who should we be talking to? Whose voices are powerful in the city? Like what issues do we want to hone in on, and slowly refining down to the right group of people to feature in these films.
So is it fair to say that you spent much more time doing that, the sort of more civic engagement, talking to people, than you actually spent filming. I mean, I don't mean to say this is anything against the films, because they're actually really beautifully crafted films for the brief films that they are. There isn't one longer than 8 minutes I haven't seen so far. But that the first part of that, the civic engagement part, took much more time for you.
Yeah.
All right. So you said the whole process took about a year, you would say, from start to finish. So although you're not finished yet, are you?
Right.
So how many more films do you have?
Done.
You're never done.
We're putting out another film tomorrow morning, and then the last one will come out on July 11th, and we're doing screenings and dialogues throughout the convention itself.
All right. Let's see. So we've talked about a little bit about the fixtures, and we talked about your part in it and your as lead artist. Tell me about the other people who were involved in the project. I get the feeling that, I mean, I know that each film has a director. Tell me a little bit about them, and then tell me who else, because I'm curious. I mean, I'm obviously curious about the directors, but I'm also curious, and this might just be for my part as associate producer for civic engagement, and I'm only a few months into this gig. I mean, and I know a lot of people, but trying to figure, how do you figure out who to talk to find who to talk to? You know what I mean? Like
you just keep talking to the people about who to talk to until you find the right person to talk to.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
just what we did the whole time.
That's the whole time.
The whole time.
Just keep talking.
Yeah.
Just keep
Question,
talking.
you go ask whoever you can think of.
Right.
We worked with, I think, 6 filmmakers altogether. Paul Sabota did 2 films. Tom LaFay did Marvetta's film. Chelsea Corso did Rafik and Jacqueline's film. Robert Banks did Nadia's film. I feel like Angela Beeler and Elizabeth Press worked together on the final film of the series. And there's no way we could have done a project of this scale without many filmmakers being involved. And obviously, like, the fixers and people who you all introduced us to are the centerpiece of this whole thing.
Right.
So there have been hundreds of people involved in this project.
So how involved were the directors of each film in the making of the film? I mean, was this sort of you had your fixture in mind, you had the topic in mind, you knew who they wanted to talk to, and then you set the director out to just go talk to these people, or did they have more of a creative role in the shaping of each film and the topic?
It was different for each one, and for 2 of the one of the filmmaking teams and one filmmaker, they were from out of town, and so they like hit the ground running. So like I would say like what would be called pre-production work, though I didn't know that term before we started this. Like we did that together. Fixers and I worked together about like, well, what story do we want to tell? Who do you want to talk to? And we would come up with sort of the set of questions. In Nadia's case, she did all her own interviews. And so like that was produced ahead of time and like setting up like when and where the interviews would happen. And in Marvetta's case, she was like, we're going on the street, we're going to talk to whoever we can. And so you didn't actually know exactly what you were going to get.
Right.
So each one was very different in how it was crafted, but it was a highly collaborative process between the fixers, filmmaker, and me.
That's great. I think, I mean, I've seen all the films a number of times and read a good amount from the interviews that you've done and other things like the event at the Social Justice Institute at Case a couple of weeks ago. But I don't think I really realized how much you guys had a part in how the films were shaped. That's fantastic. I mean, that really gets to the point of this social practice artwork and building community by making the art. That's great.
Yeah.
Which seems like a good opportunity to get to the first film. The film about the day in the life of a wraparound school site coordinator that features Denise Horton, who's the one fixture of the 4 films we're showing who's not here today. What should we know about the film before we show?
So I had really wanted to do a piece around education funding because I think we have a sort of fraught history with that in Cleveland in particular. Our education funding has been declared unconstitutional for a really, really long time. It's because it's based on property taxes. So we see like a great deal of inequity in how education plays out according to what neighborhood you're in. I expected a really negative story, and then the more, as I was talking to people more, the part of the Cleveland plan was this, exercising this wraparound strategy that United Way has gotten behind in what has grown to be 25 schools, and it's a tremendously positive story. And so I was super stoked to find several site coordinators to work with, and Denise clearly became the person to work with because she was just really excited about taking that role. And so we spent a couple days at Harvey Rice and just tracked what the work looks like.
So I know it was the first one you released. Is it the first one you worked on as well?
No, it's one of the last ones we shot.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. All right. Well, that's good. All right. Well, let's get to this that film that we're showing, the first release film of The Fixers, coming up right next year on OVEE and Idea Stream.
Okay, now we can talk, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now you can talk. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just over here sending out the link. That's what I know.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as it started, my back was like.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, oh my
Of course.
God.
Now, have you guys, all of you seen every other film? No, you haven't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Well, what about the rest of you?
hell, I hadn't seen mine until last week, I don't think.
Oh, really? Oh,
Really,
wow.
I mean, it had been on the
Arvada.
screen, I'm serious, it had been on the screen, but like when we were over at Spaces,
Yeah.
you couldn't hear audio, so and everybody was, you know, doing their thing. So I was
Oh,
like,
so
well,
at the event was when you saw it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What'd you think? Do you like it?
Well, you know, yeah, you know, I'm always my worst critic, but yeah.
And then his job came, you know.
So we have an audience of 13 people so far.
Cool, I love it.
Yeah, I found it.
Unfortunately, I feel like this
Might
swirling
go the whole time.
screen. What'd you say? I hopefully not the whole time, and I hope this doesn't happen. Oh,
Because there's so many non-academic factors.
this is the part I can't control because it's the internet. So, but I'm hoping that for the viewers, they do not get this.
It just swirling.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's just our side in the streaming.
So school district, and so the United Way combined forces with the district and with other lead agencies and nonprofit organizations. That's kind of how it interweaved its way into making a rapper.
Oh, boy.
It's starting to get back a little back to the bases that are familiar with good my child.
It addresses the needs of the whole child.
You know, we have kids who would miss school to go get shots, or maybe their parents would keep them at home babysitting because they've got to take a younger one to the doctor and the baby needs someone at home. Well, we have a relationship with Metro Health.
Boss is on. Can I get anybody anything else? Any more coffee, any water, anything? No? All right.
Go get a shot, go get their temperature taken, and come right back in and be ready for reading every Thursday. It's one of my favorite parts of the wraparound.
Oh, come on.
You did that.
I called the mom and I said, well, what's going on? So she sometimes wouldn't get them to school because if she didn't have any way to get them and feel safe enough for them to come, then she didn't bring them. And I said, well, I have some ideas of what we can do maybe after school where they don't necessarily have to go home right away. You know, the mom knew that they were in a safe place, a safe space, that they were getting some help with reading as well, and that they also had transportation back home. It mobilizes the resources that you currently have and that you could potentially obtain in order to address those needs.
There was a lot of really rough elements in the school and in turn in the library for years.
Oh, no.
We can immediately identify children and call over and
Right.
get them away, you know, it's just
Oh,
a whole
you
different
have a question?
experience.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I don't have my glasses.
I know, it's just.
Oh, I'll read it out.
And I
Yeah, I
just
know.
saw
I
gold
just look
with
like
it.
I know it's words in there. Yeah, I don't got my glasses, but I'm like, I know it's words in there.
That's nice, you got young eyes. That's really just heartening for me.
The Boys and Girls Club, Theater Generation School. Neighborhood Progress moved their headquarters here from Ohio City, and our foundation, for the first time in our history, we actually are in
The whole little setup they have going on over there is
Nice.
ridiculous. Like, I was like,
That up there with his office.
Yeah.
My God.
we just happened to run into him and he was like, come upstairs, I'll show you everything about the St. Luke's Foundation. We're like, "Ooh," like, it was amazing, yeah.
Glad you ran into him.
Yeah, it was
Day
awesome.
in and day out, it's hard to see and step back and see the vision of, oh, this is really massive. And it really is kind of making a change and a difference in this world, in this school, in this community.
It's bigger than whatever it is, as long as we have everybody clear, that's part whether it's
Oh my goodness, not what I want that happen.
Besides geography.
Oh shoot, it's like skipping parts.
Yeah. And the one thing about this OVEE, which I discovered Sunday after
Uh-huh.
we left, is that you can not fast forward it or go. You can't. You just have to let it play to the end.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we are.
Okay.
Which I apologize, Kate.
That's okay. That's what it is.
Like I said, it's all new. Oh, I'm not able to see the video. You know.
Oh, it's another question too. Oh, I can only see the panel. Okay.
That's
All
odd.
right, Christy, we don't know what to tell you on that one. Hope you can't hear us while we,
I don't think you said anything all that bad.
no, you know.
Just you wait.
We are now once again starting the live stream. All right, we're back. I'm Lawrence Daniel Caswell, Associate Producer for Civic Engagement, Web, and Social Media here at IdeaStream, and that was the first film released, but not the first film made in the series The Fixers, Stories from a Greater Cleveland, that featured one of the 25 wraparound schools that are now in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and mainly featured the fixer who's not here today, Tenise Horton. Kate, why'd you pick Tenise?
We had hit up a couple of site coordinators, and she was by far the most enthusiastic response. And she was a formative part of the strategy to begin with.
Okay.
And so
You mean the entire wraparound school strategy?
exactly, like, when United Way was sort of getting started with it, she was there from moment one. So really a great voice in terms of like what the intention was and how effective it's been so far.
So maybe I should back up and talk to me about what is an actual wraparound school. I mean, we're not talking about private schools or charter schools. We're talking, in this case, at least of these 25 schools, we're talking about Cleveland Metropolitan School District schools. What's the wraparound?
These are district schools, and they tend to be ones who are low performing or struggling. And this is a strategy to deal with the fact that, like, in poorer neighborhoods, a lot of kids and families are bringing to the table a whole bunch of different things that might be obstacles to a kid being able to focus during a school day. And knowing that that's happening, like wanting to bring more holistic attention to what those things could be. So like a lot of things described in the film about, like, if a kid is hungry over the weekend, they're sending kids home with food. If there's an issue around a kid being able to get to school safely, they're developing strategies around that, like a walking school bus, which is totally amazing, where like parents know they can drop their kids on a certain corner and all the kids will sort of like aggregate with two people walking. I mean, what a great simple solution, but somebody needs to coordinate this stuff. So what someone like Tenise does is just start pulling in partner services to address what they're seeing as emerging issues. And it's different in each school, like what's coming up.
Okay, so it's not like the same set. It's not like they have, okay, you guys need this, you need a hospital here, you need a sort of intergenerational thing here. It's different for every, that's great.
So they're really trying to come at like increasing educational quality by like dealing with this whole set of layers of obstacles and doing it in a really community-based way.
I want to get to one of the questions that we had asked here, but I also, in watching this, I was really struck. I mean, this is obviously it's trying to get at all the things you're talking about, but also trying to make up for something that comes up, and I feel like almost all of these films, this sort of historic lack of investment. I mean, in the case of the Cleveland schools, I mean, you have local property taxes, but you also have the fact that for the past next year, it'll be 20 years, the state of Ohio educational funding system has been found unconstitutional, and no one's really done anything about it. I mean, and I guess I sort of feel, I'm struck by how much that this wraparound school concept tries to make up for these funding deficiencies that happen at a much higher level, tries to, I mean, it can't fix them, but it's clearly for the kids to try to do something to make up for that gap in how they're funded. But the thing that really struck me was how much you could see in what Tenise says and what the other educators say, that they feel like this concept actually gives them the opportunity to have a part in fixing things that they couldn't fix before, that they couldn't even respond to. I mean, this obviously Tenise isn't here, but did she talk about that at all in talking about the wraparound school? I mean, did you get that sense that all of a sudden they felt like the educators felt like they had options at the wraparound school.
You know, a really powerful statement that was made over the course of that filming was Principal Houston Edwards saying, you know, what having a site coordinator on hand at the school allows for is this tremendous increase in capacity. Like, she would not be able to take advantage of these possible partnerships. She would not, I mean, these administrators have so much work to do. And so it's like, you see like very simple gestures having a really large impact if they're just resourced.
Right.
And I think that's a powerful story.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to this question from Matt. It's a question for the whole group. What was your experience in the Cleveland education system, and what effect has that had on your current activism? And Kate, I'm going to start with you.
I feel like I'd like to defer to, I've been talking way too much.
Well, Nadia, you're closest to the Cleveland education system.
I went to Cleveland Public Schools up until I got to high school. That's when I switched to Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely.
Why did you switch to Catholic school, if you don't mind me asking? I realize it may not have been totally your decision.
Well, no. Well, I decided once I got to 8th grade that I did not want to go to a Cleveland public school, and that has a lot to do with what you're talking about now, and also because once I started to get in middle school, they started just putting so many of us in classes together. It was like 40 of us in each class, and it was so like it was crazy. And then it was like once you got up there, it was like you weren't really learning anything. And then I noticed after I graduated and my sisters still went to the schools and stuff, it's like they still weren't learning anything. Like my sister came home one day and was like, we don't have a math teacher anymore. And it was just like, okay, they went the whole year without no math teacher. So then once she got to 9th grade and she goes to the same school that I just graduated from, she didn't know. She was like, I was not prepared for this. And that's because it's like it's stuff happening, nobody's doing nothing about it. So yeah.
So what effect did that have on your current activism?
Well, it made me want to go back and go talk to kids that go to those schools now, because I noticed that once I started going to Catholic school, I got different stereotypes put about me, like, oh, she must not live in that neighborhood because she goes to a Catholic school all the way across town. So once I started, like, I went back to my old middle school and I started talking to the kids, like, yo, I went here, I live around the corner from here. Just because I don't go to the high school does not mean that I did not go here and I don't understand, the struggles that y'all have. That's why I think that's a big point of coming back and tutoring the kids and talking to them and stuff like that. So it had a big part on my activism now.
Do you feel like I feel like I'm almost hearing this. Do you feel like you saw your neighborhood in your old school in new eyes when you came back? Not so much we saw the difference, but you saw.
Yeah, like just from talking to them, you could tell, like just from the school and everything. And like once I told them what school I came to afterwards, like some of the boys didn't want to come up to me while I was talking to them, but they came to me afterwards like, hey, I heard about your high school. I don't really want to go to the schools around here. Can you talk to me about the high school that you go to? And I was like, okay, cool. Like I talk to you any type of way, like, like. Right. And yeah, so.
Have you heard from anybody? It's been a while since you were in that middle school. Have you heard any reports of the middle schools any better, or is it pretty much right where it was?
I think it's gotten a little better, but it's like every Cleveland Public School, they have like so many different principals and teachers and stuff coming in. So I don't personally know any of the teachers there because all of them are gone now. It's the new principal and everything. But that middle school, I've got in contact with the vice principal and I've been like, trying to work with him about stuff. So like I see that they're trying to be open to me coming back and talking to the kids, which I appreciate.
Right.
So.
All right. Jacqueline, do you have any experience as a student or otherwise, to be honest, with the Cleveland Public Schools at all?
Yeah, I didn't go to Cleveland Public Schools. I went to Euclid Public Schools from start to finish. But Cleveland Public Schools were actually pretty, kind of foundational part of my entrance into activism. When I was in college, I took a course with Dr. Rhonda Williams, who's now the director of the Social Justice Institute there. And she used to teach this course called City as a Classroom. And the course always took students out of the university campus, which is notoriously a bubble, right? And put them in the community where you met community activists working on different issues. In the semester that I was in that class, the topic was actually funding in Cleveland Public Schools. And so this is back in, I think, 2004 or 5.
Right.
And we were working with community activists who'd been dealing with this question for years and years. I mean, it was already old news then. And of course now this is like 11 years later and it's still a problem. And this whole wraparound school idea was not even like on the horizon back then. So it's pretty amazing to see what kind of like resource building people have been able to do in spite of this ongoing deep problem. And hearing about the class size issue from Nadia, I mean, that was a huge thing that people were talking about. Having like 3 books to share among an entire class in some situations were the things that people were talking about. So, I mean, the activists that I met, like I said, I mean, they were older people in their 60s and 70s, and they were really inspirational to me at the time to, to really show what it's like to kind of dedicate your life to working on things that are important. So it did have a pretty big impact. It's really kind of the start of my work in activism.
All right. What about you, Rafiq? For your any experience, I realized you weren't a student. I don't think you had spent any time as a student in Cleveland Public, but do you have any, what was your experience with the Cleveland Public Schools, Cleveland Public School students, or in any capacity, to be honest?
When they first, the wraparound school is kind of like an outgrowth of the iCare project, different initiatives that the school districts had over the course of 20 years. And I worked in just about every initiative that the Cleveland Public Schools would come up with. They do really good when the kids are, from elementary school, like 1st grade to about 5th grade.
You mean generally speaking, the Cleveland Public School District does?
They do well. They have great programs. They have, activated teachers and ways for the parents to get activated, and those schools do well. And then something happens between 5th grade and 9th grade that is never really addressed. And then what happens in high school is it just all unravels after that. So the wraparound schools is, I think it's genius, but I think just from the students that I had over the course of the last decade and a half, it would be nice if all the schools would wrap around.
Right.
That, you get in people that are, when you get to the high school level, you may be missing class because you can't get babysitter, you can't get any childcare. You have a job and they keep on giving you a flex schedule, so you can't go to class. You might have left for a little bit because a parent got sick or whatever situation it is, and you come back. So there's not enough resources for the diversity of situations. Everybody's not just going to make it through all the way through, from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then boom, we took care of it. It's all done. Right. Some people are going to be 16 graduating from high school, and then some people will be 19 graduate from high school, and those 3 years different. That age group is different. That age differences are very important. So I think the wraparound model, if we could champion that model to be for the whole entire district, no matter what age, I think that would be a good step in the right direction. As far as my activism is concerned, I'm always heartened by young people doing things. So, just meeting Nadia through this project and just meeting all the young people that I meet on a daily basis, I'm just totally stoked, And then, all my friends have young kids, and, you're watching them, you're learning from them, and you're like, if we could just not tear it up. Yeah. For 10 more years, it'll be fine, So that's where I'm eternally hopeful that we won't mess it up for them, because I think we have a lot of stellar young people, and I think it's the zeitgeist is kind of meeting in the right place, where people like Nadia can activate really early, whereas there was nothing for me to activate to at her age.
It's funny, this is a question I want to get back to, but a little bit later. And Marvette, I want to ask you this question, but before I do, I kind of want to get back to this because it was a question that I had about that I almost wish Tanise was here, that Rafiq kind of spoke to it, the suggestion that all schools should be wraparound schools. Do you really feel, from talking to the educators that you spoke to Tanise, do they feel like every school should be a wraparound school, that should be the school? And for Cleveland Metropolitan or in general? I mean, what do you think?
Okay. So forgive me, Denise, if I say this wrong. But, I mean, we had a panel about this last week. It was really amazing. So first off, the community-based model that is being used across the nation is proving to be effective like across the board. So that's just one really important thing. The second thing is that like when the panel of people, including the principal and several site coordinators, were asked that question, it was like wraparound strategies are really important in underperforming schools. There are other schools that may not need it as much. But in terms of it, most definitely it needs to be applied in more schools, and it needs continued resources. This has simply been a pilot program. And so if people are like seeing this as something that's effective and needed, we need to get behind making sure this continues. I mean, United Way like started this down the road, and now they're evaluating its effectiveness. Us getting behind it as a strategy is important.
So how deep are we into the wraparound schools?
We're in the third year.
And
this is a year of evaluation.
Okay.
And you know, next year's levy is going to be a big deal. And also just general advocacy around how this becomes resourced in a wider way than it already is, which is like it has a ton of partners involved. So yeah.
So one last question and then we'll move on. Do you feel like the educators who are involved in the wraparound school, Denise among them, do you feel like they're hopeful? I mean, not that the strategy, wraparound school strategy is working. Do you feel like they're hopeful that it's working, will be recognized, and they will be able to continue doing it?
I think it's an open question. Yeah.
All right. So Marvetta, back to the question at hand from Matt. What was your experience with the Cleveland educational system, and what effect did it have on your current activism?
Well, I actually graduated from East Cleveland schools, and I did whatever I had to do as a single and a married woman to try and keep my children out of the school system for various reasons. However, I did have the opportunity to go up to a board meeting in the area of the Buckeye, Larchmere area a couple of years ago, and they had a great huge room with large boards, not the size of that screen. And there was a continuous theme going on. And the reason for me being there was because my youngest granddaughter is in the school system as we speak. And I walked around the room and I saw this varying theme on all these boards. And there was this terminology like wraparound schools that I had never heard before. And that was the Skyline campus. So after I inquired of a couple of people who had got some more people, because the guys in the first shirts didn't know, it was revealed to me that the Skyline campus was any school that you could look out the window and see the skyline of Cleveland. Because all of a sudden, that became a priority over the students, okay? And if you look in that same area, those schools are the ones that are now closed and sitting with boarded up windows. That might be $1 million worth of windows that are all boarded up. And these were special needs schools, but because of their placement in the real estate value, over the value of the school children, see? And so I had an opportunity later on that year in 2014 to meet Mr. Gordon. And it was so ironic because it was election day.
And I should say that we're talking about Eric Gordon.
I am talking about Eric Gordon.
Eric
S. Gordon, yes. And my granddaughter and her mother was standing there because we were doing something political that day. And I said, "You're Mr. Gordon?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "Mr. Gordon, the next time you come before the voters, your levy had better be about education, sir. Because levy 4 is not about education, nor was levy 107 really about education." So from that perspective, I am really heartened to hear that he's trying to come back for more money. And I want to know now, what's the ground rules for that? Because I had a 4-year-old a pre-kindergartner
Mhm.
who had an issue with having to catch the bus to school. Okay, and it wasn't just my grandchild that I was worried about. I was worried about every child that had to go through the same ordeal, because that ordeal involved them going through a rapid station and going across 2 live tracks and going across a parking lot and going across a main street without cross guards, because the priority was in the back of the school
Right.
where all the buses are.
Right.
And the students that don't make it to the bus cut aren't good enough. Let's blame it on RTA. Let's blame it back on the school system. That kind of foolishness. So, yeah, I'm happy to hear that they're trying to get in for this, because I want to know what the money is going for this time around.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think for the time we should move on to the next film, which actually, Marvetta, is your film and about public transit. So let's get back to it. By the way, feel free to ask more questions on the right of your screen. We still have about 16 people viewing right now. I see a question from Christy. Let me know if you can still see the video. And anybody else, if you are having difficulty seeing the video, hearing the audio, or any other difficulties, please let us know. More feedback we get, in addition to questions, the better. And Matt says very insightful answers. He says, thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, we're gonna get back to the series. You may have, as you may have heard me say, I cannot fast forward or rewind in this. We may have to run through the last couple seconds of the last film, and then the next film will start. So thanks once again for joining us for our screening of The Fixers on OVEE here at Idea Stream. Oh no, start there again. No.
Oh, there it is.
No, this is the wrong one. Okay. Let's try something here. I'm hoping that I was wrong.
You can do this.
I hope so. Otherwise, we may have a problem. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is indeed a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish there was some way I could go back in here and, like I said, all this is new, guys, so I apologize.
Trust me. It will mean, trust me, I pull out locks right about now.
Yeah, well, I already cut mine off last July. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I am.
Oh, Christy is able to see.
Yep.
And now, Matt is upset. It's
Showing the
re-showing
first video. Yeah.
We know, Matt,
Well,
we're
they are
trying.
interactive, aren't they?
I am.
I think you might just from here on, just let it.
Let the entire thing play out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk to the people. We're going to let the whole thing play out,
Right.
and then
Time to go get
we'll have a
some.
much quicker time to wrap up. I don't want to spend a lot of time on questions. I mean, we'll talk obviously, but
Right.
I want to take up too much of you guys' time. So
Right.
I'll go back, talk to them, and then with our new plan,
All right.
and then we'll see what
It's
happens.
a good plan too.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I am Lawrence Daniel Caswell here with our OVEE screening of The Fixers. I have a little technical difficulty, so what we're going to do is instead of stopping in between each film, we're just going to show all 4 films. Unfortunately, this means that we'll repeat the first film, but it's not that unfortunate because A, it's good, and B, it's not that long. And in about 30 minutes, we'll have watched all the films, and then we'll talk with Kate Sopko, the lead artist of The Fixers, and the Fixers we have here in studio. So, I'll take you to the screening of all 4 films, the first 4 films in the Fixers series here at Idea Stream. So, all right. And it was playing without that, wasn't it?
What, the circle in the middle?
Yep.
No, actually, it
No, that was
stayed
running
there
the whole time.
Okay.
Yes.
what I'm gonna do with
But it didn't
this.
exist.
Sorry.
Our grandmama over there in that corner.
All right, let's see. This should pop back up here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're obviously having some technical difficulty showing the film via OVEE. So what we're going to try to do is take you directly to the Fixers website where all of these films are available. If you scroll down in the chat, you'll see that I provided the link to the next film featuring Marvetta Rutherford. Click that link. We're all going to click this link as well, watch the film, and we'll probably just shut off the webcam so you don't see us chattering about during the film. And then after the film, we'll come back and we'll talk about it. All right? Apologies for the difficulties. Please feel free to continue commenting here. I want to read one comment from a Carmen. Oh, Carmen. My grandmother is a retired Cleveland Public School educator and reading consultant, 93 years young. She discussed a shift in how educators engage with students. If there were actual cross-disciplinary meetings where the teachers would discuss and process a student's learning experience as a whole. She believes the disintegration of that model is core to what's going on now, which I mean, it very closely matches up with what we're seeing from the other side of the wraparound school concept, which is funny because for me, I graduated high school in '93, and I obviously was not in Cleveland Public Schools, but that level, even in the suburban high school, the suburban school system, there wasn't anywhere near that level of attention paid to there were no cross-disciplinary meetings about teachers and students and what approach would work best for students. This feels like a sort of a nationwide loss to a certain extent. Anyway, we're going to go onto the Fixers website. As I said, check the link. I'll post it again in case you missed it. Let's see here. And then we're going to watch the film featuring Marvetta Rutherford and continue on. Here's the link again. Oh, come on. All right.
That's a good part.
All right. Oh, let's wait for this to pop back up.
One question.
Oh, we do have a few more questions. So maybe we should take them before we go to the next one. Let's see. All right. Well, we're going to go to the next film, and actually here I'll give you the link to the next film right here. But before we do, we're going to take some of your questions. Let's see here. This question comes once again from Matt for the whole group. What do you hope members of the RNC learn about Cleveland while they are here? Ideally, what effect could the fixtures have on RNC members who are, one, from out of town, and two, maybe less ideologically interested in seeking out or listening to these voices? Kate, it's your project. I'll direct it initially at you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if we're speaking in a realistic fashion, this project may have more impact on people who live here and on us having a better understanding of where we live and issues that are affecting people's lives and strengthening the relationships between people who are active and like activating more people. I think that for a lot of visitors, their experience on the ground here is going to be pretty highly curated. However, it does make available more in-depth coverage of on-the-ground experience in the city. So if somebody's looking for it, we hope they can find it more easily.
So Nadia, I'm curious for yours, which we haven't seen yet. We're going to watch it in a little bit, and we'll send the link up. What do you hope that? I mean, obviously this project is targeted towards the RNC. But who do you hope sees your film? I mean, do you hope that members of the people coming in town for the RNC see it? And what do you want them to get out of it?
I mean, well, I do hope that they see it because the whole point, well, to me, is showing every aspect of Cleveland, not just what you see on the media. And I think an important part of that is showing the places that they do not normally show. Like they want to clean up Cleveland, they want to redo downtown, but then after you go past 55th, all it is potholes. So I mean, like in abandoned houses and stuff. So like I heard a story that they said that they wanted people to volunteer to clean up the places, you know, that the rapid goes through for the RNC. And I laughed when I saw that because I've been riding the bus since my freshman year. Now my mom, she did not want me to get on the bus, but it was like a last decision, and I rode it up until I just graduated. With like up until this 12th grade year, and so I understand exactly what you mean. But I hope that they look at it and see all the different aspects of Cleveland, everything, the good, the bad, what needs to be fixed, and everything. And I hope everybody sees that because you could stereotype something so much and not even know nothing about it.
Indeed. All right, I think I want to move on to the next film, which is the film that features Jacqueline and R.A. Washington. So we're going to get to that. I'll send these folks the link out again. I'll send you the link out again. I have a comment once again from Christy. This is wow. This is an eye opener for me. Didn't realize how bad the public transportation situation truly is. Since we just watched your film, I feel like I just have to sort of mention this. Like I really don't feel like. I mean, you talk with people all over, obviously people in your neighborhoods. Do you feel like people realize how bad public transportation in Northeast Ohio is? I mean, well, I guess you feel like people who don't use it know how bad it is.
Well, the people who are actively being misused through public transportation are very knowledgeable about it. And in the last few months since filming this, I've had more of an opportunity to ride the bus on both the west side, the east side, in the affluent areas and in the areas like where I live. And so basically, I never get anybody to push back. Maybe 97% of the people will accept literature or whatever. Last week we had a huge rally over at Antioch Baptist Church, and the CEO Calabrese and his wife decided to grace us with their appearance, and it worked real well because so many Clevelanders came out from both east and the west side, and a lot of them on walkers and wheelchairs, because if they get away with what they want to do with them, the disabled population in the city, they're going to see a 40% increase. And I don't know about you, but people working don't get 40% increases on their salaries. So certainly, people on fixed incomes are not gonna get 40% increases. And if they do, what makes you think that they wanna pay for reduced services? Because next week, next month, as we come closer to the RNC, we're gonna see just how dispensable and how unimportant we are. And I've been talking about this with bus drivers as well, because guess what? They don't wanna be in the midst of this mess either, you understand? And so the little people are gonna once again be squatted on. And it's whether or not we lay there and take the hot Carl or get up and give them a golden shower at election time. That's where the real deal is gonna happen.
All right. And on that note, we're going to move to the next film. I'll give you the link again here. Go to the website, the Fixer's website, watch the film. We're going to watch it, and then we'll be right back with you. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. All right. And this should pop up. Just like I said, there's a lag. Let's see what questions we've gotten in the meantime. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. All right, so we're back. We just watched the film featuring Jacqueline Green and R.A. Washington. Goodness. Yeah. We're gonna skip ahead and watch the film about Nadia Loftus here. I'll post the comments right here. The URL, follow this URL and you will get to the film. I'll type it again here once more. We will watch this film and then we'll come back here, have a discussion and wrap up. Thanks for joining us. Apologies for the technical difficulties, and please keep sending your questions in. We may not be responding because we're watching the film, but once we get back from the film, we will we'll talk about it. So we'll ask and answer your questions. So here's the link once again, and we'll be right back. Wait for you to pop up.
I know Christy is very much in support. I love her.
Love your mama.
You tell her she has a new fan club. I'll let her know. We'll start her a page. We love Christy.
All right, folks, we are back. We just watched the last of the Fixers films we're going to show today. There are 4 films released right now. The 5th film comes out tomorrow morning, right? And the site that we've been sending you to, the fixerscleveland.com site, is the site that you can see that tomorrow morning. So we watched two films in a row here without any discussion. And I want to talk to Nadia, and then I want to go back and talk to Rafiq and Jacqueline, because I kind of think because the project is related to the RNC, not related, but sort of directed at the RNC, that you guys' film is actually a better film to end on. Nadia, a few things. I think before this is not even really a question. I just think about myself at 17 years old, and I mean, sort of echoing the similar things that Rafiq was saying. And honestly, he's like a month and 5 days older than me, so we're the same age. But I can't even see myself as a 17-year-old even feeling like I could do anything about what would be happening in my neighborhood or in my world, let alone to actually do something about it and be successful about it. Like I said, this isn't a question. I'm just super impressed. Yeah, and I also have to say, like, I'm honestly very impressed by all your friends in the film. I mean, obviously the people that you talk to, but they all seem like they're active in the world. Like they feel like the world is theirs and they have agency in it. And that impresses. That makes me more hopeful, I think, than any other thing that I have seen. And honestly, it's the most hopeful thing in the whole series to me. I mean, they're great things. The wraparound school project is probably, as a system, the best thing. But you and your friends, it's the thing that gives me the most hope. Yes. So that said, as an 18-year-old, you're part of what is really the largest generation in the U.S. ever. Bigger than the baby boom generation. And there's a lot of ink and articles written about millennials, bringing them downtown, building businesses for them, building neighborhoods for them, studies done around them. But watching this film, I really was wondering, when you read those things or see those things, do you and your friends, do you guys feel like when they say millennial, they're talking about you?
Well, not me and my friends, we don't. Because sometimes I feel like when they talk about millennials, they kind of down them. And not like, I say that I would agree with the stuff like about the technology, like, like how they compare, like since we're like we're the technology generation. But when it's like, they say that like the generations have gotten worse and stuff. Like I have some pretty conscious and aware friends, like that. Like I
would say from the film.
So I mean, like from talking to some of my friends, like when you actually sit down and talk to some people, then you really get to know like how they really feel. Like I work at Peace in the Hood with Khalid. I work with him. So every day, like I was there today. That's why I have on a t-shirt. So we sit in the unity circle and we talk. This camp ranges from, I think, 5 years old up to 18-year-old. And when we talk in that circle, you really get insight on how these kids really feel. Like yesterday morning, all we talked about was the RNC. Like the first hour of us being there, talking about the RNC, how we felt about it, how, different organizations are planning to come to Cleveland. And he asked us how we felt. And you could hear little kids, telling you how they felt about it. Or he'd start off, okay, somebody count in a different language. Somebody count in Turkish, French, but you would not know that unless you sat down and talked to these kids. Right. So I think when you talk about millenniums, people don't really have experience with them to really be able to judge them based off of okay, media, they all just be on Twitter and
right.
Stuff. Yeah. Right.
Can I ask what kids were saying about the RNC?
Oh yeah.
Well, we talked about I guess a couple of days ago, a bunch of groups got together, I guess, to come to Cleveland and shut down anybody that was against the RNC. And they were telling us about it. And somebody said, they were like, well, that's not going to happen. Like, what do they expect? They're coming to Cleveland. And then somebody else was like, well, what do you mean? What do they expect? They're coming to Cleveland. Like, they feel like they can't do that because they're coming to Cleveland. So like you got that, or some of the little kids like they ask them like, do you know what the RNC is? Some shook their head because it's just like, no, they haven't heard about it.
Mhm.
So it's like it was just a lot of different like stuff going on while we was talking.
Let me ask sort of the flip side of my other question. Do you feel like, of my first question, do you feel like there are things being built in the city in any way for you? I mean, not even necessarily by the city. I mean, we could be talking about private entities, community organizations. I mean, do you feel like the city's structured for you, or that you and your friends are on your own?
I feel like we're pretty much on our own. I'm gonna say that because they're not like, you go where I live at, you got like 5, 6 abandoned schools. And I mean that because I went to these schools and I know that they're building smaller schools for these schools, but they got perfectly good schools sitting up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that kind of bothers me. Like, they tore down one of my old schools to move it down the street to a smaller school and to mix 2 schools together to build a fire station when they had a fire station down the street.
Mhm.
So I was like, how does that make, or they took one of the old buildings, they had this old school, they replaced all the new windows and everything, then tore it down. So I was like, yeah, it was Hamilton. And I was like, why did you replace all the windows just to tear it down? So I feel like, no, it's not really anything being built for us. We just kind of like, out here. That's why you see they're talking about we need a rec, because if you go where I live at, you're going to see a whole bunch of little boys walking up and down the street. You're like, what is you doing?
Right.
Where am I supposed to go?
Mm-hmm. So like base level, I mean, not even base level, but just as like a start, like a rec is a pretty good solution, right?
Yeah.
I mean, something, a place to go. I mean, let me see. Oh, goodness. I've lost a question.
Can I ask a
here.
quick question?
Oh, no, Kate, you don't have to ask. You can just go right on ahead.
I mean, I would say for both of you, like, I think you've put so much thought into things that can make an impact on everything that's being described in the film. And I would just like to hear, like, from your mouth, like, what do you think would be effective in addressing some of what you guys are facing?
I think to actually talk to the people. Because I feel like it's a lot of stuff happening, but not talking to the people that's actually living in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of bothers me. And then it's like not giving up when you get the challenge to have to, like, because I can't build a rec by myself, but a way that I'm going around it right now is I'm trying to get in touch with the Board of Education for them to let me open up some middle schools for boys to play in the gym, just for a couple of hours out of the week for the day. And I got asked, well, who do you expect to stay there? I was like, I could find some people to stay in there with them. I could stay in there with them. I just need to know if I can have this. But I think it's because, like, you're not really talking to the people. How are you supposed to know what to fix if you're not talking to the people that's dealing with the issue? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that every day I deal with millennials, and I tell them, as I go about my voter registration position, that they are my hope for the change that is necessary here in this region, because a lot of people my age are stuck on stupid and parked and dumb. They have followed blindly behind a regimen of party and people who look like them that aren't for their own agenda. And it's so nice and refreshing to see someone like yourself, my dear, who is using your brain for more than an adornment for your hair, and stepping out and speaking out to those things that so many people will not. We have a lot of work to do, my darling. We certainly do have a lot of work, because that's what I do. I look for leaders. I look for the leaders, because what we got downtown is pretty much policies and procedures. If you watch a few news conferences, at least the last 10 years has been policies and procedures. And I think Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, and anybody else that's sightless would have enough insight to know that what's going on in Cleveland right now seriously needs to change, and not just for the company that's coming from now on.
When you think about what hasn't been said about city leadership and its relationship to private equity business and real estate, we think about what hasn't been said is like, the reality is that the best way to pull money from a project, if you have a budget, a nonprofit budget, or a for-profit budget, the best way to pull money from a project is to have a series of contractors. You're paying all these contractors underneath you. And you take a little bit from each contract.
Yeah.
You can get a little something.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but it's, you know, I really feel like the entire administration of Cleveland, the city council, they all need to be audited. They need their financial records to be looked at thoroughly.
Yes.
Because a lot of real estate deals are going down.
Yes.
The nuisance and abatement laws that the CDCs use to gain property and then resell it, you know, the CDCs need to be audited. Until we have like total financial transparency, we can see where the dollars are really going, so we can actually count what dollars we need. Because right now we don't really have an accounting method. And we don't really know what Cuyahoga County actually needs dollars wise. We don't even know how much dollars they spend truly. I mean, these budgets, you know, they prepare them, you can read them, and, you know, I'll just tempt fate on the whole libel thing, but I really do think that will be a good show of faith.
Yeah.
During a year where you have the consent decree and all this mess going on, for all of them just to volunteer to have private auditing, or third-party auditing of all their financials. Every CDC to do the same thing.
Yes.
And until that happens, I'm not gonna be, you know, terribly impressed or really hopeful that anything's gonna change. You know, I really do feel like right now what we're looking at is that we have 15 years before deals are made that will be irreversible and that will gut the community on a tremendous level. And you look at how Gateway worked. You look at Cuyahoga in general. You look at that Cavs rally, which was amazing. You know, 1.3 million people don't live in the city proper.
Sure don't.
So you come down here. You have water bottles, you throw them on the ground. You have hot dogs and pretzels and all the candy, you throw it all on the ground. You go back to your suburb. And then as soon as my black ass travels past the marker of your suburb, the cops are there. I can't litter on your sidewalk.
Nope.
You come here, you celebrate a team that is 90% African American. Coach is African American, you know. Cavs go Cavs. And then you throw trash on the ground. There should be like a $2 surcharge for every ticket that is sold to someone who doesn't live in the city proper, who has a zip code that does not in the city proper. That's one way you can fund certain projects. I mean, if you're gonna take the money, because we're paying back that Gateway money.
Right.
You know, but until we have that audit, you know, to wrap this up, until we have that audit and the CDCs and the administration gets audited, the personal private finances, all the LLCs, their names associated with,
Yes, God.
I'm not gonna be pleased. So, you know, I encourage people to really think about that and start putting pressure on their councilmen about that.
All right.
Agreed.
Jacqueline, let's talk about the RNC. So you're listed in the film as a civil rights attorney, but I also know you're co-coordinator for the Ohio chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. You talk about what the Lawyers Guild does and how do they work in reference to what's coming up at the RNC?
Sure. So the National Lawyers Guild is a national organization. It's a bar association. Typically, bar associations are organizations for attorneys to join, but the Guild actually is open to attorneys, law students, legal workers, jailhouse lawyers, who are people who are advocating for themselves from behind bars, and other interested folks who care about the issues that we work on. The organization was founded back in 1937 as the first racially integrated bar association in the country. A lot of people don't know this, and maybe this is interesting to people who aren't lawyers, but the American Bar Association, for example, was originally a whites-only organization. So the Guild was the first racially integrated bar association. And kind of the founding principle of the organization is that human rights should be more important than property rights. So there's a lot of different work that the organization does in a lot of different arenas, but one of the main programs that the Guild has is the Legal Observer Program, which started back in 1968. There were a lot of protests going on across New York City at the time, and then there was a DNC, Democratic National Convention, that turned into just like massive civil rights violations. So legal observers were present at these protests in New York and then at the DNC, and the role of the legal observer from then until now is to observe and document law enforcement misconduct. And to be there as a witness when people's rights are violated. So that, you know, a lot of times people go out and they engage in First Amendment activity, dissent, they express themselves, and it's within our rights to do that, right? That's a foundational principle of what the US is supposed to be about. But we also know that when people go and do that, a lot of times there are very serious repercussions for them, especially when you're talking about folks who are out on, you know, kind of advocating for human rights, who are doing progressive work or radical work or leftist work or whatever it is, who are really kind of concerned about people. And when those voices are heard, a lot of times there is a police response or some other kind of political control that comes down from the city or whatever political entity is around wherever it's happening. So the role of the observers to be there when people are arrested. We can serve as witnesses in a criminal case that's brought against those people, or witnesses in a civil rights case brought on behalf of those people if their rights have been violated. Sometimes just being there as an observer can act as a deterrent to police misconduct, which is also important. If we can prevent it in the first place, we want to do that. So that's what the observers do. In addition to that, we also recruit and organize lawyers who will come and represent folks who've been arrested in these kinds of situations, and we do it for free because we believe in supporting movement work. So the lawyers come together and provide that service as well. And then we do some other stuff in facilitating jail support, and that's like another conversation I can go on about for days, but that's the kind of general concept of that is that, you know, jail is a really dehumanizing experience. Arrest is a really dehumanizing and isolating experience. And for folks who are going, I mean, we'd love to be able to do this for everybody who ever encounters a criminal justice system, right? In an ideal world, we would do that. But we do it specifically in these circumstances, and we're going to be doing it for the RNC, providing support for folks who may be arrested in engaging and expressing themselves, and providing kind of a community of support for them so that people don't get lost in the criminal justice system as they have to move through that process, so that there are people there to answer questions, to just kind of keep them connected to community and friends and support as they deal with the fallout from all of that.
Right. So let me ask, we are less than 3 weeks out from the start of the RNC, and maybe this is just my perception. It's not just my perception. I've been hearing these things. My perception is that I've been hearing them more, but I'm beginning to hear more and more about the ways that we may be unprepared for it, both, you know, infrastructurally as a city, but also our police force. I mean, even the head of our Cleveland Police Union is saying that we are unprepared. Take that however you want. So I'm curious, for the work that you just described that you do, and for the things you talk about in the film, how do you feel about not the whole event, but really how do you feel about how well we're going to be able to as a city behave justly throughout these 4 days?
Well, Mr. Loomis, president of the Patrolmen's Union, has certainly voiced his concern about preparedness, and Chief Calvin Williams has, on the other hand, said, no, we are ready to roll. We've got everything in place. Training's occurred. We're ready to go. I think that we did see, and this is going to be really interesting to see how things play out, when the 1.3 million people were downtown in a crowd that is like exponentially larger than the number of people who are going to be here for the RNC. That the police force does, apparently in some circumstances, with large crowds, know how to exercise restraint, right? I mean, there were people on top of emergency vehicles and folks on top of bus shelters doing all kinds of things that under other circumstances on other days would get them arrested.
Oh yeah.
But we know that there is some capacity to exercise restraint. We've seen proof of that now, so that makes me a little bit hopeful. However, we also have a police force that traditionally, kind of across the board in all kinds of policing issues, is not properly and adequately trained. like I mentioned in the film, when people engage in wrongdoing, they're not held to account for that. That is a problem that runs all the way through the top. And it's not just a problem within the city, because then you have this whole thing with the collective bargaining agreement and the way that discipline that is finally handed down is then reversed. So in terms of all of that, a lot of concern, but also on the other side of it, we talk a little bit about weapons and things like this, surveillance tools that are coming in. These are really serious, powerful tools that can cause horrible injuries to people. And they can do it on a mass scale, and they're frequently used indiscriminately against large groups of people. And, you know, we know that training has been going on for those things, but do I feel confident that it's adequate? No, I don't even like the fact that the stuff is here in the first place, you know, and it's going to stick around when we're done, and it could be used on any one of us walking down the streets of Cleveland afterward, and that's also kind of concerning.
Right. You mentioned in the film, I'm trying to find my notes about exactly where it is. What was shot was like April 8th, and you mentioned as of April 8th, the Cleveland Police Department was supposed to have started this consultation process with the Cleveland Police Commission. I believe it was about the equipment that they had bought. As of the date that was shot, that consultation had not happened yet. Has it happened yet?
As of June 23rd, I can tell you it hasn't happened yet. I was just at a Cleveland Police Commission meeting last week and asked that very question, and no, it hasn't happened yet. And you know, the city is hiding behind this veil of national security, essentially, and taking advantage of that to not have to talk about things that under other circumstances they would. And it's not clear why they wouldn't consult with the Community Policing Commission on this matter. They're required by this agreement they've signed to do it. They're not doing it. They're in violation of this consent decree. If somebody wanted to enforce it, they could go to the federal court and say, do something about this. That's not happening either.
Oh my God,
So-
who's going to?
Well, we're trying.
And just to say one thing on that particular point, I think it is a common thread in like all these films in a way of like people expressing quite clearly, like this thing is needed, like changes are needed. And sometimes within an actual public process, sometimes without a public process, because there is no public process. And this is a really good example of a public process that's supposed to be about getting community input towards reforms. And that isn't a good faith use of it. I mean, that people have good reasons to distrust these public processes. And I think part of what we'd like to figure out in this project is like, can these ever be useful public processes? And I think a lot of it has to do with like whether people who are trying to make a change can trust these processes. And it's a really good example of that.
I want to talk about sort of tying in with the sort of notion of available public processes and workarounds, you know what I mean? But I sort of have a question about something that, Rafiq, that I heard you say, not really about a public process necessarily, but a process for responding and a process for doing something about the issues that we're talking about, the issues you're talking about in your film. And one of the things in the discussion that happened at the Social Justice Institute at Case Western a few weeks ago is you made a comment that suggested, somebody was saying, well, so what should we do? I think they were talking about trying to have a rally and a march or something around that. And you suggested you thought that direct action was a better route to go. And I wanted to ask you two questions. A, what do you mean by direct action? Because I kind of get the feeling that it's not exactly what everyone means by direct action. And why do you think it's better?
Yeah, I don't mean, some kind of like attempt of overthrowing the state. I don't think that's possible. I'm not really interested in seeing, a bunch of silly people try to overthrow a government that's a superpower that has nuclear weapons. I don't know. Just like I wouldn't try and box Muhammad Ali, rest in peace. Just don't do those kind of things. But, a lot of times what happens in activist communities is that all of this builds up. The issues that the fixer films are about, they build up huge cake, of frustration and all these things that we want to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, so they want to go march. And historically, you know, the march has worked, sit-ins have worked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I feel like, the way that human beings need the validation of doing something has to look like something that they know about, right?
Mm.
So the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, those are considered success stories of movement work, right? You know, some things got changed because of these. So we try to ape the policies and the procedures and the tactics of those movements. And I just don't feel like this situation is that, you know. I don't feel like that's the tactic that you need to use. I think it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes you feel active. I think it does build community.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't get to the heart of it. And, you know, passing out flyers between, you know, the leftist bookstore on the west side and the leftist bookstore on the east side, you know, who else is going to get that? And they were talking about this march that I know I hadn't heard of and Nadia hadn't heard of.
They just now started telling me that I
Yeah. But at the time, when we were at the Social Justice Institute, nobody had heard of it. So, you know, when I talk about direct action, I'm talking about, you know, you commit 15 people to volunteer 10 hours a week someplace, and you show up 365. You do that. Or you collect food, and you show up 365, and you do that. Or you have a computer lab, and you get computers from old computers from all your friends, and you show up, you set it up, and you have it. Those are hours that's on the door, you're open, and you have it. That's direct action. Anything that you can do in service that you can commit to and have consistency doing so that people can depend on it. Because usually what happens is you show up in the summer, you do it for a little bit, and then something happens and it's no longer there. Right when the card hit the right person to find out about it, the person that really needed it, then they go and that service is no longer there. Because we burn ourselves out with this constant trying to change everything. Just do your job. Just do your one job that you committed to. You know, that's why the Lawyers Guild is a nice, you know, it's a nice organization when you think about it, because it's organized to do the thing that they do. They don't serve food. You know, they don't provide coats for the homeless. They're lawyers, so they do law. They do law for you,
and a specific kind of law, in a specific range, in a specific specific area.
And I think every social justice organization needs to follow that scope. That's what I mean by direct action.
All right. Thinking about direct action, and obviously Ruffy was referring to marches. It's interesting because, I mean, he sort of said this in his comments, but I also feel like the marches that were depicted in the film that you talk about are really sort of only one of the things that Rafiq was talking about. I mean, it really felt like that was more about you and your community, you know what I mean, about being out there and showing everybody, you know, about sort of, it's like you said, representing, how do I want to phrase this? Showing that there are like-minded people in your community. I mean, is that how you feel about it?
That's how I feel about it, and I also feel like it shows that the people that's in that march with me all live around there. We were walking, people were coming down the streets and joining in with us because I put up my flyers around where I live at, so everybody from around there needs to come. The other stuff is like, you're not talking to the people that you're supposed to be advocating for, so how are you supposed to advocate?
But just all of a sudden be walking down the streets and they don't know who you.
That's not a march. People need to understand what Nadia is doing is a rally. It's an occupying rally. This is like, I'm taking this over. I live over here. This is mine now. That's a rally. That's a rallying of the troops. It's a rallying of community. That's not a march. That's not, I live in Pepper Pike and I'm gonna come march down in downtown for 3 hours. Get arrested. Tax every legal support and jail support needed, and then go home, and then be the main ones talking to the media about knocks on the RNC door by the FBI. And be,
Right.
are you out your mind? I mean, this is what we dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
They're not communicating with nobody. That's why. That's how I feel. Like I'm hearing about stuff now, and I'm like, when was they planning to tell anybody about any of this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like while I'm trying to plan stuff for the week of the RNC. Like I'm trying to plan a basketball tournament because I know boys like basketball. I'm trying to plan a basketball tournament and ask one of the high schools, can I have it there? And someone planning like that. And they're like, well, we have stuff going for that week already. People are telling me this. I'm like, well, I don't know about nothing that y'all doing because y'all not telling nobody what y'all are supposed to be doing during that week. Like, how are you getting it out? Because you're not coming to the people that's like, I don't know.
You would think social media. However, I've seen a lot of print ads. There are supposed to be some marches and gatherings, and all of these questions and comments tie into the validity of those people's safety. I believe one day they want people to hold hands across the bridges and in a show of unity. And that's fine for the cameras and whatnot. But after they sweep the streets, as you just said, after they throw their water bottles and, you know, board the buses and planes and trains that brought them, the city has a whole stack of layers of things to deal with. We only can surmise what's going to happen in the aftermath. You understand? But one thing I know for certain that we are doing for the company I work with, OOC, we have started a movement called Cleveland Rocks for the simple reason that we need to restore our communities. The politicians that we have currently in place aren't doing that. Many of them don't want any change, in spite of the fact that everybody else can see that change is necessary. So, as I said last week when I sat in front of 130 people energized from the corners of the state who are going through similar and parallel systems and situations, that the people are the change. And that's why we're working on the voter block, because the same way the lobbyists go in and tell the politicians what they want and so on and so forth, the next time I go to sit in front of a senator's assistant because they're too busy to talk to Clevelanders about their transit issues, I want to be able to tell them, sir, I represent, or ma'am, I represent 50,000 registered voters. Because see, with that kind of power, we can put you into a seat, and we can take you out of a seat. And that's where we've been so nice. We've been so nice. We haven't used the system that's been put into place. So when I tell young people, my young men, my niggas, as I reach to them, and these young millennials as I talk to them, you know, I tell them I hashtag all over the internet and all over social media. You may be mad enough to riot, but don't tear up your neighborhood. Riot at the poll. Hashtag send them all home. We have 400 seats open across the country. Cleveland is not the only city that's impacted in this manner. You want to see change? Send their asses home. You'll see change, even if it's just a trickle-down methodology, because those that are affected in November know that their election time is coming next year. And we're working, and we're going to mobilize them. And it's not a march, it's a movement. And I do believe Gil Scott said it would not be televised, but he didn't know about the internet back then.
There was a question.
Couple.
Let's see. Oh, goodness. Oh, Kirby. Okay, this question's for Jacqueline. I think it's probably the last question we'll take, and I have a question for you, Kate, and then I think we should probably wrap it up. But let's see. What's the likelihood that the campaign for Cleveland to decommission the equipment purchased for the RNC will be successful? Are there any precedents for such a thing happening? What can be done at the resident level or otherwise to increase the chances of this campaign to decommission the equipment purchased for the RNC by the police to be successful?
Yeah, well, I'll say that first of all, police departments sell things all the time that they don't want anymore, that they don't need, they think are, not useful to them. So there's that precedent. And there is precedent that bigger items like the ones we're talking about have been sold in the past too. Now, of course, you're competing with the interests of the manufacturers who don't want this stuff resold, so that's a challenge. But if we can affect that, then we've decreased some sales for them, which in my mind is a good thing, and prevents more of this stuff from being in the streets. But in terms of what people can do, we have issued, and this is like a coalition of like 20 organizations doing civil and human rights work, issued letters calling for this. Now we've called on the monitor from the federal court consent decree situation. We've called on the police commission. We've called on the city. We've called on city council members. We got to put pressure on the people with the power to make this thing happen. City council could pass some legislation, for example. Or, if people were in the streets demanding this, then the police chief and the mayor might get together and say, this is maybe something we need to consider, but we have to get out there and make our voices heard about it, because otherwise this stuff's going to stick around and it's going to hurt us.
All right. I know I said I had one more question for you, Kate, but before I get to that, I have a question for you, Nadia. Thinking about sort of what we've heard about public processes and what we can do, and a couple of things that you've talked about already that you're working on. I just really want to know, what are you doing? I mean, you mentioned trying to plan the basketball games during the RNC. You've mentioned calling middle schools to try to get the gyms to be open. This is really just, not that like you're the only one involved, but this is really just a question of you calling officials and trying to get answers. So I'm curious what you're planning.
Well, my goal is, as a teenager, my goal is to keep the youth safe. That's how you prevent them from turning into gangbangers, murderers, and all of that. You gotta start with the youth so they know not to do that when they get older. And I think the best way to do that is to find a way to keep them off the streets and keep them inside. And I can't do it's not like I could just go somewhere and be like, hey, can I use this for it's kind of hard. So I'm trying to be able to use the schools because they're right there. Like there's literally like a middle school on every main street. And I think that's important to use. And so while I'm trying to call like the Board of Education and stuff to get this handled, for me to be able to have a couple of I'm not even asking for the full summer, because summer's about to be halfway over for real. But I'm asking for a couple of weeks and a couple of hours where I can get, if I need older people to watch the boys play basketball or play football, or for them to play games or whatever, I can get that. I just need the permission to know that I can use this school. And to me, I feel like it's harder than what it has to be. Like it shouldn't be like I have to wait a week. Like I'm waiting a week now for somebody, apparently the right person, because apparently they told me I was talking to the wrong person when I talked to them about it, to call me back to tell me if I can. So while I'm waiting on that, I'm trying to get the tournament started at a high school with a bigger gym that has room for people to come, and just for people to register to I talked to my friends as boys. I said, okay, what do you think it would be? Should it be football or should it be basketball? Okay, 3-on-3, it's like 5-on-5. Do 5-on-5 because you get more, and then split it up between age groups. Because I'm talking to them and asking them what they like to do.
Right.
Because that's what they like to do. And I feel like that's the way to get answers, and that's the way that I'm gonna go about it. And if you can't handle something one way, you gotta go about it the other way. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna focus on that until I get this call back, and then call back down there. And I'm gonna try to make sure both of these things happen. But at least if I get one done, then I know that I was successful in some type of way. Because these kids don't know nothing about the RNC or nothing that's going on. And I know that whole week is gonna be hectic. And my way of stopping that, from stopping any type of tragedies or anything happening, is to keep them inside. So yeah.
All right. You're very persistent and patient. Keep that up. So, Kate, what's next? What's next for these group of films? I know you have 2 more films coming out. What's next event-wise, and what's next after this project? I mean, this seems like it's obviously a large project involving a lot of things, but it's also brought a lot of issues to the fore and done what you wanted it to do, to build community. So what's the next step with this sort of network that you've built?
So tomorrow morning we have a film featuring Belle Scott coming out. And then we will be putting out the final film of the Fixer series on July 11th. There are a lot of events coming up around this. And if you go to the Fixer's website, there's an upcoming events link, which is the best place to look at all of them because there's so many at this point. In terms of what's next, I would like to put that out as kind of like a challenge to everybody who has even the remotest amount of interest in this. I mean, I think that we are seeing a lot of threads of really important things that are coming out of these conversations, out of these films. And some of that is a lot of people who are working really hard don't even know each other yet. And that the same way in which our city is tremendously segregated, our activist circles are tremendously segregated. Can we build better relationships with each other? Can we support each other's work? As speaking back to what Nadia said, are we talking to people most effective about what the solutions are? That should be priority one. And so I don't really have a vision for that. I don't think it's necessarily like this. It wouldn't be a great vision if it came out of my head. I mean, I think it has to come out of our heads. And I invite people to to be a part of crafting what that looks like.
I know you say you don't have a vision for what it looks like, but it sounds like your vision is to continue to build on the community and the network. I mean, that sounds like it. That's great. And I think that's a good note to end on. Thank all of you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank everyone for tuning in here and for all of your questions and answers. And thank you for being really patient with the technical issues and difficulties. I'm Lawrence Daniel Caswell. This has been a screening of the first 4 episodes of The Fixers here on OVEE. It's an idea stream production bringing it to you. We have Marvetta Rutherford, R.A. Washington, Jacqueline Green, Nadia Loftus, and Nadia's mother as well, and Kate Thopko, lead artist on The Fixers. Thanks once again, all of you, for joining us. I'm going to close out the camera here and the microphone, but quite honestly, if you have any comments, those of you paying attention in OVEE, if you have any comments or questions, leave them out, leave it open so you can leave them in the comments thing, and if there's anything you want to feed back to us, leave it there. I'll make sure that any of these guys get it. Thanks for joining us. Have a real lovely evening.